Hi y'all, my name's Katie and welcome to Appy Bee Creates, where I make stuff. And I just made this bad jack, so not the sketchbook itself, but everything in it, and I did it in 10 days. Now the reason this is a big accomplishment for me is because I've never filled up a sketchbook before, like never sat down, started one, and finished it. And I did it in 10 days, so needless to say, I'm very proud of myself, and let's see how that process went. Look at me go, I did it, I did it, I did it, I did it, yeah. So, to start off this project, I had big goals. I wanted to paint what I saw, and what better to paint than the lake I grew up on. I learned to swim in this lake, and I probably consumed way more water out of it than I should have. One thing you don't notice when you're swimming in the lake is how green the surrounding area is and how green that makes the reflection in the water. And this is totally out of my comfort zone because I usually use more intense colors, usually a lot more variance, and I also don't paint landscapes that often. I'm much more an abstract artist. This goal of painting what I see, you can only paint so much green in a day. I'm no Monet, I can't paint that much green. So I switched to this red Adirondack chair in front of me, and I love the intensity and the harsh lines that contradicted with the rock wall in front of it. I love how this wall contrasted with this bright red plastic chair, these rocks stacked beautifully with this bright yellow-green moss. This turned out to be one of my favorite pieces I made this week, and I still love it. Next to this chair was this like monster of a tree, and it had these beautiful tiles or scales. That's the word, scales. These beautiful scales of bark that had very dark veins and very light outer layers. So there was a high contrast between those two pieces, and I found it really interesting. Now, when I paint with watercolors, I'm not going for the most accurate detail. At least that wasn't the goal this week. I was just going for the vibe of the tree, the general awesomeness that was this tree. And kudos to anyone who can paint trees like accurately, because that is hard, at least for me. Need to practice a lot more at that, but there's just so much depth between the leaves, and there's such small little parts that create shadows. I feel like I have to stare at one section of a tree, like I feel like I would have to look at one leaf at a time, and when painting an environment where the sun is going down and the shadows are constantly changing, that was way too overwhelming for me to do. I'm just going for the vibe. I'm going for the feeling this tree gave me, and I'm really happy with how this turned out. I've never really started with a blue-ish undertone for trees, but this tree was just giving off such blue-gray vibes. I had to do it.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah, baby.
Coming. Ooh,
Yeah, baby.
bucket hat. This day I was painting on the other side of the alcove we were in, and I was really interested in the lily pads in the water because they were this bright yellow green, but when the clouds went over them, they turned into this gray blue green, and you could actually see a shift like right in the middle of the lily pad patch where it changed. When looking for patterns and how to paint the trees versus the reflection of the trees, I noticed that the trees itself had a much rounder shape, so I used a round brush to paint those colors and paint those trees, and then I would go in with a flat brush and use this stippling, I don't know what kind of technique, but where I would do the same general outline but with flat lines to represent the reflection of water. This drawing was my least favorite drawing out of the entire experience. I realized that I'm much more of a lay down the blobs and then shape the blobs, not a color pencil fanatic. I will use color pencils on top of watercolor, but color pencils itself is just such a long process, and I do not have the patience for them right now. As you can see, I'm drawing the same tree from earlier in the video with those beautiful veins, and with colored pencils I feel so pressured to draw the shape right the first time or be more accurate and less flowy and less loose, and this was just too much pressure and it wasn't fun for me. I tried something out of my comfort zone, not my fave. If you've been following along, you'll notice that I missed a day. Now, I did not draw that day, but that was a day just for me and my family, and I didn't feel right recording. Now, I know I was just complaining about how colored pencils were not my jam, but markers are. I really like the intensity, and I feel like you can't go wrong with marker. You're making marks on a page. You're gonna mess up, it's fine. It's fine. And I was also sitting with my family at the table and didn't want to whip out all the watercolors and all that. So I brought out my markers and I started drawing a single line contour, I don't know what kind of drawing, of my grandpa's awesome red shirt. This drawing actually turned out to be another one of my favorite sets that I drew. It gave off the loose feel that I love about watercolors, but had the concrete contours of a marker. And his shirt was like made of this thick flannel that had very nice round folds. I liked the dimension it added. Like, there was him and his arms, but then the thickness the sleeves added, it made it a lot easier to identify the folds in his shirt. You feeling goofy? Feeling silly? Feeling whimsical?
Trying to get in your way.
Feeling obnoxious, I see. My amazing boyfriend came to visit, and we went and visited these caverns, and it was such a change of pace, and it was so nice to just be with nature again. Not observing it, not painting it, but just being surrounded by nature. And it sparked this creativity in me again to paint what makes me feel happy and what makes me feel good, and what that is color. And I realized I had limited myself to this green and brown and yellow color palette that was just not for me. So I started throwing some light blues, some purples for shadows, a lot more variety of colors that you don't necessarily see. And I started making these pieces that made me happy and made me want to engage in the art. This change of mindset made it so much easier to fill up the sketchbook, mostly because I was having fun doing it. I was having fun painting again. I cut out pages because watercolor takes forever to dry, and I didn't think about that. And once I cut out those pages and was able to work on multiple pieces at once, like do one layer here, do one layer there, try this color here, oh, I really like this color, I'll move it to this other piece. It really opened the door and made me excited to make art again. I know I went in with this goal of painting what I was going to see and painting these landscapes, but it was not fun for me. And once I took away those boundaries, I found myself having a lot more engagement with my art and a lot more fun making these pieces that were inspired by what I saw, not exactly what I saw. see your friends?
They're back. My militia. Hello.
Listen, I was sitting here and I was like, I might go for a swim. There they are! There they are! These are the two goose gangs!
Yeah.
See, this group will swim up first, and then this group, like, creeps up behind them, but these guys might start putting their heads down or going like...
Yeah. Good vlog. Good B-roll.
I already got some.
Nice.
Because they were coming at me, and they were like, hey, you're gonna feed us, right? You're gonna feed us, right? No! I want you to live! So, taking some of the techniques that I use with the abstract art, the wet on wet, I thought it'd be really cool to try and paint that skyline of trees again, because you can't predict how the water's gonna flow and how the pigments will flow in the water, and I thought it would create a really unique skyline or tree line, water line, I don't know what it's called, but it turned out really cool. And so while I was waiting for that to dry, I went back to my other piece and used the same technique from before, where I used a flat brush for the bottom ripples and the reflections of the trees in the lake. At this point, I'm building up layers to try and darken the shadows, because I got the highlights. It's the shadows, and you can see them here with the evil geese, but there's like these deep yellow greens and then these deep black greens, but like black doesn't exist in nature. I don't know what does, but it was just, maybe watercolor wasn't the best medium for this, but I definitely had a lot of fun with it, and I had a lot more fun once I took that pressure off and just started messing around with techniques and messing around and trying new stuff out. Because what's the worst you're gonna do? Fail? That's what the next page is for. The next few clips, I spent the day in town with my friend. We went to this really cute tea place. I got a really nice drink. Then we went to a vintage antique store, and the only thing I could think of was, who is she? Then we went to this awesome bookstore which had like 1 billion rooms and 1 billion books, and I got so overwhelmed, but was still pretty excited. At this point, I'm a little over a week into the vacation. I have about 2 more days left to fill up the rest of the sketchbook, and I am exhausted. 6 pages a day for 7 days, 6 times 7, 42? Maybe. Around 42 pages. And I've never created that consistently and that intensely for such a long period of time. And they don't tell you this, but it's exhausting. Creating is exhausting. So I've resorted to kind of just filling up my sketchbook at this point. Not really wanting anything out of it. Not really expecting to create anything, just messing around. And this is what came of it. I'm not unhappy with it. I enjoy it. I don't think I'm gonna frame it and put it on my wall. You make what you make sometimes. I did not go into this page with high hopes. I saw these cute little yellow flowers in front of me. I decided to paint them, and I actually really like how they turned out. They're super cute. I love the way the water pooled and the pigments pooled in the flowers, and I think it would look really cool if I went over it with some line work. Probably gonna do that digitally because I don't want to mess it up, but using that pool of water at the base where the stem meets the flower and dragging it down also dragged that pigment down. Also, shout out to Iz. Thank you for reminding me that I can use my brushes like this. And I'm just so thrilled with how these came out. They're so cute. They're so cute. I love them. So at this point, it's the last full day of my vacation and I'm so creatively exhausted. I pulled out markers and just filled the page with these lines that looked like the waves in the river in front of me. And once I had created this pattern that I saw of the water close to me being lighter and the water further away, the reflection of the trees being green, I pulled out my paintbrush filled with water and just smudged those crayons around, making sure to leave a little bit of white of the paper to show the caps of those waves, that like very bright reflection. Heading out, saying goodbye. I didn't get any footage because I was filming in the car, but look at that beautiful gorge. Oh, gorgeous.
Hi, I missed you.
Needless to say, my goals going into this sketchbook to paint what I saw did not work for me, so I changed it. And that's okay, because I needed to do something that would help me create art. So shifting that mindset from painting what I see and being frustrated and annoyed that I couldn't do that quite yet, to creating art that made me feel happy was what I needed to do. That's all I got. So have a great day, go create, and I don't know, try something new, maybe, if you're up for that. That's see y'all later.